Echo 12 just flatlined. Both nodes.
That cluster took 41 years to build. Pull up the visual, now.
I didn't know the crawlspace under my uncle's cabin had been rated a Class 1 strategic asset until after I'd already stuffed half of it into a trash bag. That's not a metaphor. That's just Tuesday. My name's Kurt Halloran. I'm 61, and until 3 days ago, my biggest problem was that the ice machine at the lake house made ice that tasted like the inside of a boat. Uncle Sal left me the place when he passed, and the will basically said good luck. So here I am on my knees under the porch, wearing my dad's old headlamp, trying to find where the raccoons are getting in. There's a lot of junk down here. Old fishing tackle. A rusted-out generator nobody's plugged in since Reagan was president. Some kind of metal box bolted to the foundation that hums a little when I touch it, which I figure means it's got a wasp nest in it, so I hit it with a wrench a couple times to scare them out. Nothing came out.
Good.
Back to the raccoons. 6 light-years away, in the Ashvane Charter's monitoring nest above what its charts called Designate Earth, Officer Prel Vantos watched the telemetry from listening post-Echo 12 flatline and assumed, reasonably, that a bird had landed on it.
He logged it as routine.
He'd been logging things as routine for 11 years. Echo 12 had survived 2 ice ages, a meteor strike, and 1 extremely persistent badger. It was not going to be undone by weather. Then the secondary relay dropped too. Prel sat up. 2 nodes in the same seed cluster didn't fail together. Not by accident. He pulled the diagnostic feed and found a heat signature crouched directly over the primary housing. Biological, warm, unshielded, and, according to the vibration sensors, humming a tune the translator flagged, with visible confusion, as possibly a jingle for a regional seafood restaurant. He sent the flag up the chain anyway. Somebody smarter than him could decide if that was a threat. Then, because protocol required it, and because he was starting to feel a little sick about it, Prel pulled a drone off standby and sent it low over the tree line for a visual. What came back was a man in a faded ball cap kneeling in mud, whistling, occasionally hitting a piece of 41-year-old charter infrastructure with a wrench like it had personally wronged him. No armor, no weapon, no visible awareness that anything under his hands was worth more than the truck he'd parked beside it. Prel had trained 6 years for first contact protocol. Nothing in it covered this. Dr. Ilex Dorand did not want to be smarter than Prel today. She'd been 3 sips into her tea when the flag came in, and now she was staring at a waveform that made no sense. The relay network under Designate Earth had taken the charter 41 years to seed, 7 generations of engineers, full hazmat rotation, 6-month deployments, just to bury a single node deep enough that the locals would never find it by accident. It was the foundation of the entire invasion timeline. Tomorrow's war, built quietly 1 relay at a time, since before Ilex was born. And the vibration sensors were telling her the primary housing on Echo 12 had just been struck, repeatedly, with a hand tool. "Define struck," she said. "Struck," said the technician beside her, not looking up. "Like hit. On purpose." He thought there were bugs in it. Ilex looked at the readout again, hoping it would say something different the second time. It did not. The organism had touched an unshielded quantum core with its bare skin and shown, near as she could tell, no reaction whatsoever. Not curiosity. Not fear. Mild annoyance about pests. She forwarded it to the High Marshal with the subject line, "Please look at this immediately," then added a second line, because she felt it was owed. "I don't think it knows what it's touching." Back under the porch, I found the raccoon problem, which turned out to be a gap in the lattice, not the humming box, so I figured the box was fine and got back to clearing junk. There was a whole coil of thick black cable running from the box out toward the dock, half buried, and it was in my way, so I cut it with the bolt cutters from the shed. Sparked a little. Smelled like a 4th of July that went wrong. Found my old man's fishing rod under there too. That's the real win of the day, honestly. High Marshal Seska Round had commanded the seeding campaign for 19 years. She'd buried nodes on 4 continents personally. She was not, as a rule, a woman who panicked, and she did not panic now. She simply went very still, the way officers do right before the room understands that stillness is worse than shouting. "Say that again," she said. "He severed the trunk line," Ilex repeated. "The one that synchronizes the whole cluster." "Cut it." With a hand tool called, She checked. Bolt cutters. That line is shielded against orbital bombardment. It was not shielded against bolt cutters. Seska pulled up the cluster map. 41 years of patient, silent engineering, every node timed to activate in sequence the moment the fleet arrived, and now half of it was dark, not because it had been discovered, not because it had been fought, but because one unarmed biological had found it inconvenient while looking for raccoons. Pull the fleet's activation clock, she said. If that trunk line was the master sync, we don't have a network anymore. We have 40 scattered nodes with nobody listening. The tech at the far console made a small noise. Marshall, he's not done. Okay, confession. Some of that metal was actually pretty good scrap. There's a guy at the recycling yard on Route 9 who pays by the pound for anything with copper in it, and that coil alone was going to cover my beer for the month, so I loaded up the truck. Threw in the humming box too. Once I'd pried the lid off and confirmed, no wasps, just a bunch of tiny glowing crystal-looking things, which I figured were decorative, so I kept 2 for my tackle box and sold the rest with everything else. Guy at the yard gave me an extra 20 for the crystals. Said his nephew does some kind of electronics thing, and might want them. I didn't ask what kind of electronics thing. Man's got a business, I've got beer money. Everybody wins. By the time Seska's staff finished tracing the sale, the crystalline cores that had taken the charter's finest engineers a decade to synthesize were sitting, individually shrink-wrapped, in a bin at a Route 9 scrapyard, 40 minutes from being sold to whoever walked in with cash. Ilex read the final assessment out loud because she needed to hear it in her own voice to believe it. The trunk line is severed. The master sync node is disassembled. 6 of 41 seed relays are now for sale to the general public at approximately 11 credits a kilogram. She set the tablet down. Marshall, the war we scheduled for tomorrow was quietly ended yesterday afternoon by a man looking for raccoons. Seska didn't answer right away. She was looking at the last frame of footage they had, the biological, 61 charter years old by translation, sunburned, humming, tossing a scrap of 41 years of imperial engineering into the back of a pickup truck like it had personally disappointed him. Reclassified designate Earth. She finally said. Threat tier, unknown. Recommendation. Do not disturb. Do not reseed. Do not, under any circumstances, send anyone down there to ask for the crystals back. And the invasion? There isn't one, Seska said. There's a raccoon problem and we lost. Somewhere behind her, a junior officer quietly asked whether they should at least send a formal note of surrender. Seska considered it, then decided against it. Surrendering implied the other side knew a war had happened at all, and nothing in the footage suggested Kurt Halloran had noticed anything unusual about his Tuesday. That more than the crystals, more than the trunk line, was the part she couldn't get past. Anyway, fixed the lattice, found the rod, made $20 more than I expected, and the ice machine's still broken, so that's tomorrow's problem. Some guy from university called about the crystals a week later, real excited, kept asking exactly where I'd found them, and whether there were more. I told him under a lake house, ask the raccoons, and he laughed like I was joking. I wasn't. Those raccoons have some real estate down there.